Hi, welcome to the Pints Polishing Podcast. I'm Marshall. That's Nick and Brian. Hey, this is going to be a fun episode. You can find us at hyperCLEANstore.com. You can find Brian also at the HyperCLEAN Specialist Group. That's a great place that he, Nick, and I love to hang out. Come interact with us there. Hey, this is a great episode. I'm looking forward to it. This is an opinion-based episode. Nick and I haven't done these in a while, have we? Here we go. Let's have some opinions. So let's get started right off the gate. Let's not even hold back. This is an opinion that continues to grow. We saw a post recently. It really sparked it again for us. Is our opinions on training. Hey, here we go. So what about, though, back in the day, not necessarily what's your story? We all know your guys' stories. We're glad that you're a part. But what's your view when you got started early on? How did you gain information? Because that seems to be the big play of what a training today resembles. Come gain information. So let's start off, though. How did you guys gain information? This can be detail related, business related, overall related. How did you gain information?
Yeah, I'll go first. For me, my story is, maybe a little different than most detailers. I gained a lot of my information by working for someone. But also, when I was working for someone, I'd meet people at body shops. I'd meet people, that were painters. I would meet people that, worked at dealerships in different departments. And so I started creating those relationships. So for me, my learning was on the job, right? I had people that were really great, building a great company. I was detailing for them. I started my career learning nothing, and somebody just handed me a polisher and some compound and saying, put that on the car. But once I got into a company, that's how I learned it. I did seek out relationships through that, ended up learning from guys that were spending all day in a paint booth or whatever like that. But that at the beginning of my career, for me, it was learning from the people that were building a successful business, and they were teaching me how to detail a car.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm very similar to Nick. I started off in a garage, as a kid. I was 15, 16 detailing, trial and error on stuff, doing basic wash stuff. But mainly I went to work for a detail company and knew nothing and absorbed as much as I could, listened, and kind of built from that. Nobody's perfect. Nobody knows everything, but you got to pick those pieces out. But working for somebody is by far the most valuable thing you can ever. I don't know. It's whether it's detailing or being a plumber or any service industry. But you got to know what's the good and what's the bad, and still trial and error. Some guy might tell you, "Hey, this is how we do it, and this is what we do," and sooner or later you got to figure out if that's the right way or the wrong way. But also talking to people. There wasn't so much animosity, I guess, between detailers when I first started. We had a couple mobile guys. It wasn't anything like it is now today by no means. I'd never imagined it'd be as big as it is today. But if you weren't sure about something, you might bump into somebody at you'd be on a job site and you'd be in the same business plaza and you have two detailers there cleaning cars. You shoot the crap with them and, they might throw you a bone on something because they're 20 years older than you and been doing it for a while, and you listen. And it might not be, at no point did you ever say, well, you're dumb. Or, they tell you something, you don't know what you're talking about. You just get out of here. Listen to it, take the pieces you can, and move on. The listening is the biggest thing, and figuring it out.
So listening is the biggest thing. I love that you said that. Listen, I hope people, while they're listening, they understand that while we have similarities, we all believe that learning is valuable, right? Like anybody that stayed in business for X amount of years, you can call it 5+, has definitely understood the need to learn things. So we're never going to be people that say, hey, you should never learn something. It's really more of how certain people learn in different ways. You guys said you all learned hands-on while you went to work for somebody. We've all heard those infomercials back in the day. Hands-on training, right? Like, come learn today, right? Get hands-on training while you're at work. I kind of chose a different aspect, and I didn't learn from anybody. I kind of jumped out of a ship and had to understand just to wash a car. I needed, Brian, you'll appreciate this, muscle memory. I needed at-bats, right? I needed to put my mitt on the car as many times as I could, and I learned the basics, right? Nick, your skill set was far beyond mine as we began to get started because of what you were, right? You put yourself into a position to learn the skill as the valuable part. I learned just a simple how to wash. And so for me, what did I really need? I need to learn how to sell something. I need to learn how to go talk to somebody. I went a completely weird alternate route. And y'all remember, this company back in the day called Amway?
Oh, yeah. Hey, Amway Arena in Orlando, my guy. I mean, they did all right.
They did all right.
You get invited to that dinner party, and next thing you know,
I did, and I joined, and I learned a valuable lesson there, and that was buy from yourself. And so, what is one thing that I've always done through after then? Wear my own logo, right? Nick, this is something you and I share it, right? Like I learned something very valuable by going to go join a company and just start. And I learned to always wear my own logo. That stayed with me. What's something that you guys learned? Because you all did trainings too, where you went and learned something from somebody. It might not have been specific for that, but we would have all done something. Give us one real quick thing that you grasp at a training that you've carried throughout your life.
Yeah, I would say for me, the number one thing training wise that I was unsure of, I didn't know a lot about, was in the same light as you, was sales. And I got hooked up with somebody, through a friend. Hey, this guy runs this thing kind of at a Marriott, go learn from him. But that training kind of helped me understand that you got to close the deal. And, there's an old movie, but it was basically called ABC, Always Be Closing, right? And it stuck with me. And so, Marty, as well as anybody now, that when I get on the phone and there's chum in the water and we can close the deal, I'm going to push it. And so I'm thankful I learned that. And I do try to talk to detailers that way to get them to realize you can be the greatest at what you do. You can build the greatest car in the world. If nobody buys it, it doesn't matter. Right. And so that was a big lesson for me because I had no, I didn't have family that were like big salesmen or anything. I didn't have any exposure to it. And so once I kind of, met some people that were what you would call sales dogs. I mean, these guys made a lot of money selling whatever. They could sell, ice to an Eskimo. Once I kind of got into their network a little bit in this training, it changed my mindset a lot because I realized I got to close deals. I got to close customers. I got to get people to want to do business with me. So that was a big change for me.
Yeah. Brian, what about you? Did you do sales also? Was that another thing that you tried to learn, or what was something that you grasped?
I wouldn't even say it was a training. I think it's just, like Nick spoke about it plenty of times, people you associate with when you're doing this business and the people is, sales. It's, for years, I was in the mindset of nobody wants to buy what I'm selling. That I'm a detailer. It's just, it's not a great job. You're kind of bottom feeder. Back in the 80s and 90s, you were Biff from Back to the Future. I mean, you just weren't. That just wasn't the job. To sell something to somebody, it was very intimidating because I was like, I really have to sell this person because they don't want to buy it. After being involved with more people, much more wealthy and far up than me, that people want to buy what you have. And you just have to have confidence in that you do have a good product. This is what you do for a living. Your product is good. There's nothing wrong with it. And once I got to that point, it really changed for me to be able to, became easy almost. Just, the closing's still hard. I mean, I have a tough time talking to people, even though I enjoy doing it. But just having that confidence that you do have a good product, people want to buy it. You just have to give them the information and stay on top of them, sort of.
So it sounds like we're all three of us, in a sense, we all pro, like, hey, if somebody needs some training. So let's go into what does training look like today in the world, right? What is the environment of training inside of the detailing industry? Because we just three all said you need sales.
Yeah.
But what's training look like in our industry? What is training?
I think there's a lot of frustration. I think Brian, Marty, you guys hear from a bunch of people. We had Post and the hyperCLEAN specialist group that kind of got us on this episode to talk about it, which was a good post. I think right now there's a lot of confusion and a lot of anger towards what's going on in the training aspect of our industry. I don't know if all the anger is warranted or not. That's not for me to decide, but I think there's a lot of people very confused, especially guys starting their business. And look, you can start a detailing business at 20, at 30, at 40, at 50. We hear it all the time. Guys in their 40s, I'm tired of corporate America. I'm going to start a detailing company. I think every single one of those age group is confused about where to start because there's so much out there and they don't know who to trust. And all three of us know there's not that many trustworthy people running training programs. I mean, it's very little out there. So I think right now you have a lot of
trust. What is it that they should not trust? Like what are you thinking that is not trustworthy?
I mean, for me personally, what's not trustworthy is most of these guys have never been in business. So you have guys, the training in our industry is based towards, I'm going to help you be a business owner. Brian brought up the plumber. When plumbers go to training, they're going to training to learn to be a plumber. None of their training is about being a plumbing business owner. It's about becoming a good plumber. Well, we haven't separated out. And the reason it's not separated out, and I'll get Brian's thoughts on this as well. The reason it's not separated out is because they don't think the skill is the most important thing. They're selling you a dream. You're going to come to my training. You're going to come to my coding training. You're going to come to my 1 week training, and you're going to have success in the business. Skill-based industries don't do that. They have apprenticeships. They worry about developing your skill. They don't sell business. The detailing industry has always, since the beginning of time with this training thing, told you that these guys were going to talk not only skill, but business. And I can tell you this, just because you detailed one car in 1986, you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to this business. And that's the majority of training going on is from guys 45 to 55 that never even owned a business when you go back to it. And so if they're giving you a skill, that's a viable thing to go learn. Somehow in detailing, we've intersected that these people know about the business. And that really doesn't happen in any other skill-based industry. They always just teach you the skill. So if you're a guy getting into this, you're confused because you're going, I'm going to go pay all this money for the training, and I'm going to know this business. And then they come out and go, I don't know anything. And it's like, well, you should have just been learning a skill. That's where I see the confusion.
Brian?
Yeah, I think you got to be able to understand what you're getting into. I mean, you got to do some of your own research when you're looking at any training. It's no different when you're going on vacation and you're like, well, I'm going to fly down to Jamaica and stay in this place. It's $2,000 for the week. You don't just look at a ad and go, yep, I'm going there. You start doing research. You kind of look at the backstory. What's this place got? What are the minis? What are the ratings? How long has this place been in business? I want to see pictures. I want to see what they do on a daily basis. I want to see people that have been there and have dealt with these people. That's what you do when you spend money. If you don't do that and then you say you got ripped off, it's kind of a cop-out. I mean, you did it to yourself. You just got to know what you're getting involved in. And every training, I don't care what it is, you're going to take something away. And if you can't do that, then I'm not sure if you even should be doing any of it. It might not be the best thing in the world. You might not have been 16 hours if it's 2 days, whatever the case may be, of just solid, man, just banging information. I'm a genius now. But you got to be willing to take something away. I think a lot of people go in and just feel like this is going to change their life, like they're going to a Tony Robbins seminar and it's going to next day be the best thing in the world. And they're going to come home and start making, $500,000 a year all of a sudden.
So I'm glad you said that. Let's break that apart for just a second, because Nick, you said something like, hey, there, if you're going to come, you're going to get some motivation, in a sense, is what you were saying. And Brian's kind of saying the same thing. As somebody, Brian, I think you've led trainings. You've been a guy that's trained people and led them. That's a big part of, Nick and I, the second time we went face to face with each other, he was one of my students in the train. No, I'm just joking. I invited Nick to come over and, help show people how to actually use the polisher at one of my trainings. So, the view from point of my view of what trainings are today really comes from the lens of being somebody that has hosted them. So, Brian, as you've hosted a training, right? You've been the speaker. What's your thoughts on those moments, right? And let me preface it with this. I had other people that were co-trainers that showed up hungover and drunk. I had plenty of people who were more concerned about taking a selfie and holding their phone than taking notes. I had a lot of students who were so gracious for my time, but then did not, let's just say, reciprocate the amount of time that I did, and were not as gracious with the amount of time I spent as the amount of time they would spend back with me and my company. So training kind of took a weird lens for me, right? Seeing that play out. But inside of your trainings, right? Like, were the students? Were they there to have fun? Because inside of the trainings, I had to make them fun, right, Nick? I had to have motivation. There's a part of mine where some people went, hey, I didn't know if I was in a Tony Robbins type event, because once you learn something, you do need to get motivated to go out and use it. So what was kind of the atmosphere for you, Brian?
As a person who's led trainings and also been the trainings, it's a toss up. It does get frustrating because you do have people that you're almost identically, you're back into a Facebook forum, you're speaking, and they want to challenge you on everything. They want to tell you you're not. That's not how you do it. This is how That's not. I mean, it's amazing how people just can't listen and just move on. Look, I'm available all the time. I got people that still call me on a regular basis about boat detailing and stuff like that. Hey, I'm working on this today. Can you help me? Sure. I mean, that's what any of us are really around for. But there's people that go and they have the mindset that they already pretty much know everything. It's like they pay money just to feel like, well, I was right. I know it all. So I'm going to be combative with you and whatnot. So, but there's other people that sit there, and the best students are ones that really just are there to listen. And they will pull you aside at the end. It's like, hey, man, when you talked about this, I really can we touch base a little more on that or whatever? Look, my trainings are not, fireworks and explosions. And I mean, they're tough. Anybody who thinks the training is easy to do, it is seriously tough. Because when you sit down and start writing all this stuff down, how much information you're trying to share in a 2-day minimum period, it's a lot of stuff you want to cover. My trainings are almost all business. And then we get into detailing towards the second day and, how we do stuff.
When you say they're all business, what business, right? Nick has said, people shouldn't talk business. He wasn't referring to you, of course, but, what are we defining as inside of these trainings is business?
How to get a customer to make money, how to acquire a customer, how to keep a customer, and what it takes to do that. And it's not a 5-paragraph thing to do. So, and you got to have people understand that that's the biggest part, really. And I don't know if you have to go to a detail training for that. You can sign up for, at your community college for business classes. I mean, it's not that expensive to go to a business class on marketing at a community college, but you got to go. You got to go 2 days a week, and there's going to be tests. There's going to be this. So it's work. You're back to, okay, I really got to invest in this. And it's not just a 2-day, magic pill. I think when you talked about the washing cars thing and kind of saying, I started simple. That's not the simplest thing. That is the backbone of it all. And I think you could do a 2-day training on washing and vacuuming a car. But it's repetitive. You got to be like, okay, we're going to do it again, guys. Okay, let's bring another one in. We're going to do 30 cars this weekend. Let's do it again. I'm going to show you what step you should take there. I mean, you should be able to get your time down to 30 minutes on a wash and vacuum on a car, and you can make a ton of money just doing that. And guys are so worried about, I want to learn how to paint correct a car for a $2,000 ticket, when you can make $1,500 a day in washing vacuums if you got your time right. And you did it right. That's where you started, was the simplest form, but that is it.
Well, that's why I had to bring Nick in to tell people how to polish, right? Like, Nick, is that what you think most everybody? I mean, that seems to be what so many people really want. Is that the business of inside of trainings, of how to polish better? Or what, in your opinion, is what people are saying as business.
Yeah, I think that's why I don't, we've been sent a lot of handbooks from a lot of trainings that we got to look over from every big name, every small name that's out there doing it. And Brian just kind of gave the key to the whole thing. I think when guys go to training, they're trying to skip to the end of the book. That's what they're really trying to get out of that. They're trying to put themselves in a position, I'm going to fast forward my life and I'm going to magically be successful because now I can charge $2,500 instead of $250. The truth is most guys would be better off just starting at the beginning of the book, learning how to do a basic interior and exterior, a basic wash and back, learn how to sell that. We have this conversation all the time about 5-year coatings in our business with guys. Hey man, you barely have done any 1-year coatings. Why do you want to bring a 5-year coating into your business? Oh, well, I want to do this. It's like, I think what Brian's getting at by talking about the beginning of your career that you shared is there's a lot of value in just starting at the beginning. And it's not that you're beneath anybody. If you're getting into business, and this is where I think guys, Brian and I have talked about this a lot. You can love detailing. That's awesome. I mean, we all at some point love that we're involved in this. You have to do it this long. But the money is the key to all of this. Because if you can't pay your rent, if you can't pay your mortgage, if you can't feed your family, it's all kind of irrelevant. So what I think happens in a lot of cases today and how we got into such a weird place with training and detailing is, these trainings are trying to skip guys to the end of the book. If a guy can't sell a wash and back, he's not going to be able to sell a $2,500 ticket. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I mean, that's a real skill set. Brian, I think, knows this. I know it. Marty, you know it. To sell somebody on a $2,500 ticket, you better have some sales skill. You better have some real chops of doing that. And so I think I look at it as...
But hold on. There is a lot of theory that, well, if I don't have the chops, I go to this training and I get on their map and I get their, handout, and because they're going to teach me now how to do that. But so we all went to go get training to learn how to do that. Why do we not think that then these, young guys could go get their certification and get that skill set, Brian? You said you teach it. So awesome why wouldn't they be able to get it?
Because are those guys doing that?
What do you mean?
That's a simple question you ask yourself. The guy that you're going to go learn this skill from, is he doing that? Is he go? I mean, social media is powerful. Anybody that's that big, it's on social media. Is that guy filling his shop with 5-year coatings, 2 a day, doing 10 a week with a 2-man crew or 3-man crew? Are they doing that? If he's that good at it, is he selling those jobs and just knocking them out? And now it's like, okay, I'm going to start training, and because I want to give back or help, whatever the case may be, or make money training. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it costs a lot of money to do trainings. But are those people even doing that? And I don't know that I can narrow that down, honestly.
Yep.
So number one for you is the person doing what they're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're all getting at here is if you're training somebody to polish paint and you know that skill, it's very viable for you to teach somebody that. If you've never had to fill a business that you own, that you built from the ground up with 5-year coatings, and you have no track record of that, don't tell me you can do it. You have no track record of doing it. That'd be like me saying I can go race in NASCAR or Formula One when I've never driven the car. It's just stupidity. And that's where the confusion is right now. And it's not even confusion. I think that's where a lot of the anger is starting to come from, is because enough people have gone to these trainings and said, I learned from so-and-so, it didn't all add up to what's going on in the real world. Well, you know why it doesn't add up? Because he's not in the real world. That's what it comes down to. If you've never sold a $10,000 ticket to somebody in detailing, you can't tell somebody how to do that, how to nurture that customer, what that customer is looking for. You can have a bunch of theories. You can have a bunch of things that you think might work, but you ultimately have to put yourself in a position, put yourself in the mindset that Brian and I are in every single day, where we have customers calling us for a service. If that happened 25 years ago for you, you didn't even deal with coatings. You were selling wax. So what the hell do you know about selling a coating? And this is no offense to those people. Sell the skill of applying the coating and polishing paint. That's perfectly okay. The minute you cross over to tell me you know the business, you've crossed the line. And I'm not the only one. Look, these trainers have never taken $1 of my money. So I have no reason to bash them or say they're bad people. I don't think that at all. We are hearing time after time after time, guys, smart guys going to these trainings and going, that guy didn't know what he was talking about. Brian's dealt with reps from ceramic coating companies all over the world. How many of them know what they're talking about? They know about their product, but do they know about the business? No chance. I have a great rep for PPF. I like her a lot. She has no idea about how to run a business. But by the way, what makes her a great rep, she doesn't try to act like she knows.
Right.
But Brian knows that most of the time in detailing, ceramic coating, these types of things, the reps, the individuals are overstepping what they know. If you've never been there, that'd be like hiring a triathlon coach that never ran a triathlon. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't hire a 500-pound personal trainer that's never been in shape. But we in this industry are now hiring people that have never been there. And some of them weren't even around when sealants were around. They were putting wax on cars. So I couldn't train somebody on ceramic coating if I quit this business 25 years ago. You know how much has changed in my career? I mean, Brian and I got to imagine we feel the same. I didn't think we'd be seeing $2,500 tickets.
Nope. I've said it multiple times that it blows my mind. When I started with first ceramic coating company, I was like, nah, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to be able to sell this to make profit and be able to create. I mean, it's just not possible. And here we are. It happened fast, and it is what it is. But yeah, especially back in the 80s and 90s, no way would you think it'd be like it is today.
So if we only have a couple hours inside of a training that somebody might talk business, seems like you guys are a little bit over the top with your absurdness then, because listen, they're only going to go into a couple little things, right? Go market to people, go use social media. Hey, you should take photos. Hey, you should go talk to people, right? I mean, they can't actually get into in depth. So I'm kind of sitting here curious why you guys think it's such a bad deal. I mean, let's take it for a second, right? I got a phone call. Well, actually, I called this person because I got sent a message around a guy that I knew that, started becoming a trainer. Like, okay, I want to pick up the phone and call this guy. I want to understand what he's doing on his next steps, because he'd been around coming to the pint nights and, I kind of knew him. And so, he told me his things that happened and, that's private confirmation. So I'm not going to talk about it here publicly. And I said, great, man. I just want to end this way. And I said, don't make me call you out. If I hear then that you're promoting that you're going to teach people business at your trainings, I'm going to have to call you out because you failed at your business. So it seems interesting that we're in these moments. It's not just the guys that used to put it on with a wax, but it's also then the new people, because training, let's be real, training has become for some people a pretty valuable way for them to get their name known. So
Yep.
what part does it fall onto the consumer, right? When does really it fall onto the consumer? Hey, if you went and paid and listened to this guy and he told you to go sell on social media, then it really kind of becomes your fault, because you could get that wisdom from everyone.
Yeah. I think it's interesting you say it like that, because if I was 21 and starting my business, I would be really confused, and I probably would have paid a lot of these people because I would have been under the impression that they were somebody, because social media makes everybody appear like they're somebody. I think you're right that, hey, in a couple hours, I can't learn business. Exactly right. That's my point. You're going to a one-day ceramic coating training. You should be going there because you want to either find out if that coating's right for your business or it's not. That's what you should be going for. You shouldn't be going to learn the business. But the problem is they always interject that we're going to help you be successful. They always interject that and call that sales, call that marketing on their part. But that's how you got to this cancerous place where nobody knows who to trust. Nobody wants to have a conversation like we're having now, which again is not disrespectful to anybody. It's just open and honest of saying where we're at. And, you've seen certifications the industry's tried to put up. Those have largely fallen flat, haven't helped at all. And I think it's time for a reset. I think it's time for guys like us, and there's many of us in this industry in our position, where you need to just speak up and say, hey, man, it's time to have a real conversation of how we make all this better. And the number one way for me to think that this will get better is that the people that don't understand the business today to shut up about the business. Just teach people skills, have them go learn business somewhere else. You don't have the time, you don't have the knowledge, but we all know that's not going to happen, because what they're doing is they're saying to people, as Brian knows, you come to our training, you're going to be selling $2,500 packages. And until that goes away, I don't know how you fix any of it.
Well, they're selling the idea of, well, we got to add value to this ticket. I mean, it's the reality is you can do a ceramic coating training in 4 hours. I mean, it's not a 2-day training. It's not a full day of anything. There's only so much repetition. Like I said, learning how to wash a car, like doing a quick mini detail, like washing a vacuum on a car, takes tenfold than learning how to ceramic coat a car. There's tons more information, and that's what everybody thinks is the simplest thing, or whatever the case may be. But they're adding value. They're trying to add value to these ticket numbers that, well, we need to justify this. We got to have a 2-day training because we got to be able to justify whatever the ticket is. Or we're going into, well, we're going to help the industry now. We're going to help everybody's business. We're going to bring everybody together. But we're going to double now. Just right off the bat, we're going to double training prices like that. But we're going to do all this now with it. We're going to have this going on and this going on, and But is that really valuable? Is that, like you said, is that 2-hour bit on this or 2-hour bit on that? Is that worth the money? And it possibly could be. I mean, honestly, if it's, I think Nick and I talked about this, if it's a $3,000 training and it's 2 days, if you take 2 things away that caused you to somehow manage to be able to sell a ticket better or move jobs better, it was worth it. Now, a lot of people won't be there, be like, I spent $3,000 and I didn't get nothing out of it. Well, you had to close mine. I mean, I've got MTE. I go to other classes as much as I can, bounce around. Countless times I've got ready to walk into class, and the speaker will tell me, Brian, don't come in here. We're just going to be talking about mundane stuff. I'm starting off, this is just introductory stuff. You've been doing this for long. No reason for you to be in this one. Why don't you find another one? I'm going in that class because I'm going to pull something out of it. And I always do. I don't care if it's one thing I write down or, a little bit from somebody. That I'm going to care. It's going to be with me forever. And it's going to help me move my business along. I take value in that. Now, those are free classes. I mean, to a certain extent, you're paying to get in there. But if you're going to a training, if you've committed to this, you need to be able to take something from it. And whether it's a skill or a little piece of information, and that value, it might be that value for you. But if you're going thinking that you're going to, well, it's going to change my business, I'm a cluster when it comes to business. I can't do any of this. I can't figure this out. I'm going to go this 2-day training. These guys from X company are going to get me together, and I'm going to be able to set the world on fire. That's just not the case. So you have to be realistic about this stuff.
Yeah. And so, Marty, I'll ask you this. You and I had a conversation yesterday that I think Brian, I'd love to get his thoughts on. Think of your most successful clients that you've ever worked with through your business. What do you think they would charge you for a week for you to learn from them? Because I can tell you this, it ain't $1,000. It ain't $3,000. It's 5 figures, and in some case, six figures, depending on how successful they are. So there is an unrealistic expectation that I'm going to pay $1,500 for this 2-day training, and I'm going to get all this knowledge, when the 3 guys sitting on here thinking of their most successful clients in any business they've ever owned would probably charge you bare minimum $6,000-$7,000 for 2 days. That would be on the low end, right? That is how valuable people are. And so when you think of, I paid $500, how valuable can it be? At that point, you're just learning about the coating. You're learning maybe how to polish a little bit. And Brian's right. You're taking a thing or two away. If you really wanted valuable information from the most successful people you've ever been in business with, that number is going to be so astronomical. Most detailers will be like, that's crazy. He's ripping me off. Well, a guy made $1 billion. What do you think his time is worth? And what is it worth for you learning from that guy for a week? I can tell you it's not $1,000. And it's a 5-figure number, 6-figure number, and now all of a sudden most people can't afford it. And so I think where Brian's right is I was king of this. I went to the SEMA show and never went into the show. But you know what people don't realize about SEMA? They have like 10,000 classes that week. But they have it on sales, marketing, all this other stuff. Guys that aren't even in the auto business, sharing social media stuff. So I would go to SEMA and just go to the classes. I'd never even walk the show. Because again, like Brian said, my mindset is if I can go pick up one thing that can help me, that's worth my trip there. But there's a lot of guys that look at 500, 1,500, and it is a lot of money when you're starting your business. It had been a lot of money to me, I know. When I was getting my start, that was a lot of money, and it's still a lot of money to guys today. But to really learn elite level business, I think you're in the 5-6 figure range just for a week of somebody's valuable time. And I don't think guys ever hear that.
Well, previously, years ago, I called somebody scam artist, right? And I've talked publicly about my views of the amount that some people charge for their trainings while I was going around not charging. So, right, like this really becomes the dichotomy of what you're asking, because as somebody who believed at one point in time that, hey, if I give my time to somebody and I teach them to learn how to use this product and then how to go sell the product and how to grow their life, well, that person would then, right, want to, because I learned it from this guy, Zig Ziglar, okay? One time when I wanted to learn sales, I put all these CDs and listened to a guy named Zig Ziglar. If you give enough people what they want in their life, you will get what you want out of your life. Interesting. When it comes to training, though, what price tag should be put on that information is where that question probably will remain, well, questionable.
Yeah, I think the part you left out, number one, telling guys you were putting CDs in your car tells you that you're fairly old in this whole thing. Yeah, so, but I think here's the part that you need to take, and I would take from, and I've read and listened to Zig Ziglar too. He was also charging $10,000 an hour while he was telling you to give away free stuff. And so here's the thing you dug through as a business owner. You realized he gave me a portion of the story, and you were okay with that trade-off. That's what Brian's getting at about taking one thing, two things from a training. I'm okay that I don't have all the information. I'm just looking for information that can help me. And it's my job to find the information that can help me. We've gotten to a place, and this is consumers across the board that all companies talk about, whether you're a small business owner or a large company, they talk about the way the consumer has changed. And the consumer now thinks if I give you $1, then you owe me $500 worth of service. That's what they believe. And I think if guys are listening to this, the thing you can go away from as a business owner is you're going to waste a lot of money in your life as a business owner. Every single person on this podcast has wasted, we're probably all into the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've wasted on nonsense. Things we thought would work that didn't, things we put our money behind that didn't, trainings we went to that, hey man, they weren't what I thought they were. Guys get so hyper-focused on a dollar amount, it becomes really difficult when you enter the world of business in that mindset. I don't know how you back yourself out of it. So I am telling guys here now, high-level training would be 5 figures. So don't expect a lot out of a $1,500 training. I think that's unfair to the training program, and it's also unfair to yourself. Are the training programs misrepresenting themselves? No question about it. But I think Brian knows for $1,500 in 2023, you're not getting a whole lot.
No.
I mean, there's just no way there can be.
Let's move into this question because as we've understood now, okay, we've got to, if somebody really wants to get something out, valuable, quote unquote business, right? Sales, marketing, all that good stuff, they're going to have to spend a lot of money. Okay. So let's go at this in just a little bit hair of a different way. All right. Because we got to think too, that there's going to be some problems that have arose, right? Like we could call this the cancer. Would love to know what your guys' views What is your view of the overall, right, cancer that has happened with trainings in our industry?
People misrepresenting themselves. But selling that they're, they've made it to the pinnacle, so I'm going to teach you the way when they've not even remotely come close to that pinnacle. We're just like, I'm going to start training now. I mean, you're looking at people that don't have multiple employees. You're not running big shops. You're not dealing with tons of overhead. You're not having to worry about, say, I got to sell stuff just to cover my payroll, which is more than most shops have to worry about. Payroll in a week is more than most shops in a month have to worry about their billing. I mean, there's a lot of stress in that to make sure all this stuff's done. You have to do your due diligence when you're looking at a training of like, okay, and what do you want to learn? Do you call the place and be like, okay, this is what I'm really having trouble with. This is what I'm looking at learning. Are you guys going to cover this? Are you guys going to do that? I mean, I don't know if people just maybe go in blind a lot. Like, I'm just going to go to this training. It's new. I'm going to, learn this ceramic coating, the fourth one I've used. And
you really, is that what you think? I think there's a lot of people that get the algorithm, or they get enough sales put in front of them, with some brand or somebody, or a YouTube or whatever, right? It could go across the whole platforms, and they just get inundated with, we have the answer, right? We have the answer. Sort of like you said, I think they just click the button. I love that you said, pick up the phone, pick up the phone and call.
This is going to be the next best thing. I mean, really, it is like, this is going to be it. This is the one that's going to change you this time. All right. This one's the game changer. I mean, it's just not the case. If you've been to 4 trainings before and you're going to your 5th one because you think this is going to be better or it's going to help you, you probably shouldn't go. I mean, it's just reality of it. I mean, unless you've been picking up stuff, and every training you're like, man, that 1,000, that 750, that 2,000, it was really worth the money. I'm going to see if this guy has to say, because I've kind of done my research. I want to really have some FaceTime with him. I want to talk to him, or whoever people are there. And I think I'm going to get some value out of it. And it's great. Then you're probably going to get value out of it.
But Ryan, if you picked up the phone and called a training center, what questions would you ask them?
Probably, what is your layout for the day? Like, what I'm having trouble with marketing. I can't get this Google Ads thing under control. I don't understand. Do you guys discuss that at all? I want to learn how to do a 1-step paint polish. I'm stuck on doing two steps. I'm so inundated with, I got to do 2 steps. I can't get my head straight with getting down the 1 step and doing a coating. Are you guys, can you help me with that? Are you guys going to get me where I can get my time under control, where I can make some money? I'm really struggling with these things. Or, do you guys have anything that is going to be like a good base package you can teach us? Is it like, ours now is the 1 year ceramic coat, no paint polishing. I'm not saying that's the package they should be teaching. I'm just saying, is there something that I can take away from you guys that you might be able to show me where I can really build off a cheap package to help my business, whether it's just washing vacuums. Maybe the guy doesn't even do washing vacuums at all. Maybe just all he sells is 5-year coatings, and he's like, man, I just need $120 a day coming in for one job that would kind of boost me over for $600 for the week. Can you help me with that? I just need a little more cash flow coming in my company. I mean, there's a lot of things, but I guarantee nobody calls. I didn't get any. Actually, one of my trainings, I did have a guy call, ask me, how in depth are we getting into the boat ceramic coating, boat detailing? Are we going to learn how to detail a boat? And that was a great question. And I went through, absolutely so. We're going to do the whole job. It's what we're going to do. That was a good question, but there was like one guy called me about something like that. The rest of people, kind of sign up or whatever. So.
Yeah, but I think what you're hearing from Brian is he's identifying a problem in his business and then calling the trainer asking about that problem, right? A lot of guys are going into training and just going, well, I'm going to go learn something. Well, no, what do you need to solve, right? Like, there is a huge market for, Brian knows this, Marty, you've watched it in trainings, I've watched it. There's a huge, 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 huge problem with efficiency. Most people don't make it because they can't efficiently detail a car. I mean, we see it in Facebook groups and Facebook posts all the time. I did an interior. It took me 7.5 hours.
And brag about it.
There's no money in that. Right. Oh, well, I just take more care than you do. No, you're just inefficient. And you're doing something you can't charge for. I took 7.5 hours and charged $250. Look, I own my own business. That's not what successful people in any industry do. It's about, especially when you're in a service-based business, you're trading your time and your knowledge for a dollar amount. And the only way your knowledge and your skill is beneficial is if you can do things extremely efficient. That's it. So I've been invited to go to somebody in Los Angeles that can do like 3 front end PPFs in a day, just him and his daughter. Guess what? To get that efficiency, it costs. It's not $1,000. If I want to go, that guy's going to charge. You want to know why? Because he knows efficiency matters. If he can help you move 3 PPF jobs out of your shop when you're now moving a half a job out of your shop a day, what's that knowledge worth?
Well,
I think when you listen back to Brian was talking about learning something specific that he can go to the market with. We have a lot of guys in this industry, and I think it's great people start their own business, but they don't understand that this thing has to be driven by efficiency and the money you make off that efficiency. And so they think it's all about this pride thing. And I don't put out any shit work I'm not proud of just because I work efficiently. I just make it a business, right? It'd be like Apple saying you can get an iPhone in the next 12 weeks. Sorry, we don't have one. Customers would flip their lid if they couldn't just pick one up at the store or have one delivered to their house. So if Apple cares about efficiency, why, as a detailer, wouldn't I care about efficiency? And so that is valuable stuff. And that is stuff that you don't have to run a business to learn how to efficiently detail a car. I think that's viable training, which is what I don't want people to lose about this. That stuff is valuable. It's not valuable when somebody's telling you how to run a shop that's never run a shop or once ran a shop in 1993. But it's very, very valuable to learn the efficiencies of this business.
So what was your answer to the question of this? What's the cancer of the training? Is it that they don't understand efficiency, or what?
The cancer of the trainings that we're seeing now is that they're talking business. They're not talking, they're not doing what Brian's saying, which is if I call up Brian and say, hey, I've been detailing boats, I'm struggling, I need to be efficient. And let's say Brian doesn't own his business. That's a viable thing because Brian knows how to detail a boat. But if Brian's a guy that doesn't own his business as he does now, the cancer is Brian talking the business part of it. That's all we have as the problem right now is a bunch of people talking that have either failed in business or once upon a time want you to believe they detailed cars for money training people. That's the cancer to me.
But I think we leave out that it's about money. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that people it's a bad word. Like, I'm here to make money. I want to make money. I want to make as much money as I can and do good work, good amount of time. And I'm not, whatever they say, grinding until 2 a.m. and whatever. And I'm billing out $15 an hour, but I'm getting a $2,500 ticket. I mean, when people start talking about business, they leave out, like you said, the business is making the money and making it in a timely manner where you're not losing it. And
all right, so Brian, let me ask you this question. What's your view on how much money somebody should be making in order to consider themselves a business?
$125,000 a year.
How'd you get that number?
You do this long enough, that's where you need to be at. And I'm not saying you start your business in year one. Well, I didn't make up 125, so Brian said I suck, so I'm out of here. That's by no way what I'm speaking of. I'm talking when you're running a business after multiple years, we'll say 3 years is your kind of cutoff point. Now, if you can't do $125,000 a year, this might not be for you, or you just need to start really hunkering down and doing some education and surrounding yourself with people that do well. That's just kind of where it's at. I mean, it's $2,500 a week. And you can't tell me these guys are out there bragging on, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Oh, look, I did this coding. I did, like Nick said, I made $275 or I made $3,000 on this coding job. Okay, great. Well, then there's no way you couldn't do $125,000 a year. And that's just kind of a basis. And that's by yourself, working for yourself, no employees. Just that's a very easy number. And most people don't even get near that. And it's almost unfair to take money from people like that to say, well give me $1,500 and I'm going to get you there. Because I'm not saying I can. Because if you come to me and want to do a training and you're trying to get to these numbers, well, I'm going to be like, look, man, give me a call this week. Give me a call next week. Let's see what you're doing. Shoot me your numbers this week. What'd you do? There's got to be still some communication with everything to help somebody out, because people lose steam after all this stuff too. Whether you go to training, you're all fired up, and you get home, it's like, all right, then you feel like you're not applying what you learned, or you forgot, you didn't write the notes down. It's amazing how people don't have a pad to write anything down. They just sit there and look at you the whole time. It's mind blowing.
Right. That's what I said earlier, right? Like that really surprised me. They would hold their phones, and I really liked that that they were taking the video of it, right? Or they were going live and they were showing other people, right? I was like, cool, I like this. But the old, as Nick and I used to call ourselves, the old motherfuckers, right? That old motherfucker in me went, nobody, I rarely saw anybody ever writing, like taking actual notes. And that really did surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying the money.
And I think Brian made a great point. I like the $125,000 in revenue because, we have a case study inside of hyperCLEAN we've shared before where a guy with all the skill being able to make the money in December of a year, all I did was organize his packages and tell him what to concentrate on. He went from making his best month ever. That December was $5,000. January of that year, he made $15,000 in revenue. I didn't do anything other than organize his business and say, stop caring about this stuff. This is the thing you like to do. This is what you're best at. Set up your packages to sell this one package the most. And so if you can't do $10,000 a month in revenue at year 3, into your 4th year, whatever it is, you don't really own a business the way you think you do because you're on the verge all the time of going bankrupt. You're always just holding on. And so I think one of the interesting part of this is that, like, I like what Brian said, is we've almost made it a cancerous word to talk about money. And I think that's a huge problem because then that's when you get the buzzwords, passion and love what you do and all this other stuff. That's great, man. I really like that you love what you do, but you're going to grinding. You're going to need to make money to advance in life, right? Like that's just the one thing we all know, even if you're 20 years old, to buy a bigger house, you're going to need more money. And so to not focus on that from the beginning, which I think is the sole problem with all of this. Most of these guys don't concentrate on running their business efficiently because they don't concentrate on the kind of money they're making. We all three probably had a little bit of a different mindset, I'm guessing. I always did this thing for money. I always looked at the money I was making. I always cared about the money. Even when I worked for somebody, I cared about what I was taking home to advance my life. There seems to be a very big percentage of people that come into business, not just in detailing, that just want to romanticize owning a business. Well, guess what? Sooner or later, the bill comes due.
So
and when the bill comes due, you're going to be pissed off.
These people say, know your why. What's your why to be in business?
Make money.
Yeah, why Apple's in business? I mean,
I'm not doing this for my passion. Trust me. If it was passion, it'd be sitting down on the beach probably with a couple of drinks, and if that was a payroll, I'd be on it. I mean, this is about making money, and I mean, yeah, I enjoy it. But do I enjoy going down in the shop and running a polisher for 8 hours? No, I don't want to do that. I'm not like, this is the best thing. This is the best day I had. Boy, today I got to polish a car for 8 hours, man. I'm thankful.
All right, so there's a lot of guys that listen, Brian, and they go, but I do enjoy that. I would love to go out for 8 hours and polish a car. So what's the problem?
If they're doing it after 15 years, I guarantee you're not making a whole lot of money. I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, if you haven't moved on to have somebody do that for you, or whatever the case may be, but
are there trainings that teach how to do that?
No.
To not hold a polisher?
No. That's where we get into the crux of this conversation. Nobody's really talking about how to run a business successfully. Not that we have seen. I mean, look, we haven't seen every training that exists in the world, but look, man, it comes down to one thing and one thing only, that your business is going to need to be profitable. Apple needs to be profitable. You need to be profitable. If you're not profitable and making enough money, not just to live, but to put some money away for a rainy day and build something for your family, this business ownership, and I don't think people realize this, business ownership for most people turns into a nightmare. Brian, you have friends, you have family. Marty, you have friends, you have family that have gone the business route. Marty, you shared a story with me recently that you were at a function and you're like, dude, this guy's like in the hole massively because some people haven't paid him. I want you to think about this. His business ownership experience has now become a nightmare, right? So this idea that it all just goes away and you don't pay any penalty, That never happens. You either paid a penalty by making less money for 10 years than you should have been making in the free market, which nobody ever talks about. The reason Brian's number of $125,000 is important to think about is because it's never been easier than right now to make $100,000 as an employee. In our lifetime, it's never been this easy. The UPS drivers package is around $125,000 to $170,000 in employment to deliver packages.
6 weeks vacation.
Yeah, 6 weeks vacation. So this isn't about this is about the economy and how it works. It's never been easier to find a $100,000 job. So if you can't replace that $100,000 job by owning your own business, then all the years you stayed in business, you basically gave the market all of that money you should have been making. Right?
And they don't know when to get out. They don't get out when they can. I mean, it's the reality. They just hang in there like, I'm going to do this again. I'm not going to change anything I'm doing. I'm going to make my $60,000 again this year revenue. And this year is going to be different. And they just keep hanging in there because they're like, well, I'm in a business. I got my own free time. I'm my own man. And I got, I can preach that I'm a business owner. And there's nothing that great about it. If you can go out, like you said, and work for somebody. I have people turn me down all the time when I've tried to hire other detailers and stuff like that. Most detailers don't even know what they're making. You can't sit them down and show me what you make. Truly on paper, show me what you make, then your bills, then all your costs, show me. Well, I mean, I think it's like $1,000 I do this, and I think of this, and I think of that. How many hours was that? How many days do you work? How many, did you work 6 days every week, or how many weeks did you lose because of weather? How many hours did you put in March or this and that? They have no idea. I have no idea what per hour I'm even bringing in my company. But at the end of the year, I have some money. Maybe.
But those are the guys that will go on a Facebook group and said, I did this $1,000 job with no context. You don't know if they had the car for 2 weeks or 2 minutes. And they see the $1,000 and they think I'm making a lot of money. Making a lot of money is cumulative, what you're taking home at the end of the year. That's the only way you know if you're making a lot of money or not.
Right.
It's not in a month. It's not in a quarter. Because you could have a great first quarter of the year, be dead the rest of the year. Well, guess what? You didn't make a lot of money. That's not how it works. And so I think this is where you kind of tie this all into this training frustration and all this other stuff is our industry is really bad about talking about money. And I think that's probably a lot of industries like plumbing and electricians. It just seems like there's individuals that don't want to act like this is a money thing, right? You talk to guys, Marty, you're in the oil area. Oil riggers care about one thing, the money they're making. They're one of the few people on earth that are open and honest that this sucks and I'm doing it because I make a lot of money, right? There's very few people. Well, let me tell you something. Detailing after 10 years, 15 years, it sucks because you've held a polisher for thousands of hours at that point. And so if you want to get there and you really enjoy doing this, the way to enjoy doing this is to build a team, to build something that's sustainable. But how often do we talk about it? I mean, I think we're probably one of the only podcasts that consistently talk about building your business and finding easier ways to build your business. It's like Brian has said multiple times, wash clay and a 1-year coating. Why does he love it? It's not the biggest ticket. It's easy on his staff. It's easy to do. It's very beneficial to the customer. But look at how many people on a post, if you say, I'm going to put a 1-year coating with no paint correction, you'll get 100 comments of people saying you're a hack. Not one of those guys is making money. And so now you have this revolving door of people who make $0 with all this input because of social media acting like experts. And I think that goes into the training thing as well as the Facebook group thing. You're inundated with people trying to tell you how this business works, and 99% of them don't make any money.
That's the thing. We've talked about it before. People don't want to talk about the money part of it because they've never had money. They've never made money. They've never experienced having money. They've never experienced the money part of it. So they don't want to talk about it. They don't have any need to. And the reality is that's what it's all about. You're there to grow your business, not to learn one thing and be like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep chugging along. I got this now. I got this ceramic coating figured out, this new one, and we're going to go back to doing what I've done every day. But you got to, if you're going to one of these trainings, you just got to take some responsibility of it on your own too. You can't get frustrated that you didn't get your value or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's $1,500 or $750 or whatever it is. It's not. I know it's a lot of money, but if you're telling me you're going out doing a coating for $2,000 and wow, that's what I do. I don't do anything less than $2,000. All right, well, it's a day's worth of work then, or 2 days, or 7 days, whatever the case may be. How long it takes to do a coating, but so you can't knock the price or what the value is. Like Nick says, going to this PPF training. What's 3 front ends? I'm not a PPF guy. $7,500, $9,000. So this guy's giving up a day of his work to have you per se in his way while he's teaching you. I mean, that's money he's losing of his efficiency. So he has to recoup that. And for you to get the knowledge of, if you'll take that home, well, now you can turn that into 100-fold. You're always going to have that knowledge. So
yeah, that's now $1 million idea that you paid thousands for.
Sure. Chump change, really. I mean, when you look at it. And I don't think people understand. We don't talk about the money of a lot of this stuff. I mean, Nick and I have been talking about, our website here and there, and I'm starting to learn more about Google Ads and doing advertising. I mean, you're $3,000 a month to get started for running ads, but there's value in that. But to tell somebody like, yeah, you got to drop $3,000 a month, just these ads, and you're going to start doing business, and there's no guarantee on that. I mean, it takes time to build it if it works, but that's money you're investing in your company. And you got to get to a certain point where you can invest that kind of money to grow your company more. It's not a light switch. You're not dropping $3,000 that first month, and it's like, boom, I'm going to have work, and I'm going to drop $3,000 next month, and then, well, I got work now, so I'm going to stop spending that $3,000 on month 4 because I'm actually making work now. No, that's just part of your business now. I mean, people knock Facebook all the time. Facebook sucks. Don't waste your money. Don't waste that. We spend a tremendous amount of money on Facebook ads, but it works for us. We do well with it, honestly. But it's not. I'm not talking. I get $10,000 off an ad, but if I spend $200 on an ad and I get $2,000 off it, that's an amazing return to me. I've made my money back. I've got a new customer, but it took me money to do that, and I can't do it unless I have money. And that's what it all comes down to. You have to have some money and put away some disposable money to grow your business and not just get by, not be like, well, I got my bills covered this week. But they don't talk about it, that you need money and you want to be able to make enough money where you can be like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm either going to sell my company, which is the most rare thing in the world when it comes to detailing. It's very possible to sell. You can put your position to sell, but most guys don't keep books. They don't have any knowledge of their revenue, no idea where their customer base is. They don't have any information when they go to sell. If somebody wants to get a small business loan and they want to see everything, you're like, well, I can't buy your company. I mean, you're telling me you make $500,000 a year, and as far as I know, you're riding around in a beat up Pinto, and you're always begging for work or going here to do training. I don't know.
All right, so I want to ask this question, and it's part of it's because I've voiced some opinions out there publicly, and part of it's because I hired in the past plenty of detailers. I actually, in the beginning of growing my distribution company, and then especially as we branched off and created our online and what we were doing nationally, I valued the fact that we were the only detail-based, right? We were the only detailer-based company out there. Nick and I value heavy inside of hyperCLEAN. Hey, we have 40-plus years experience in detailing, okay? So I preface that by saying, well, what do we think about detailers that become trainers? I paid detailers to become trainers. I'm happy to pay more detailers in the future to lead trainings. However, right, there is some big howevers there, and that's the however part that I think we should spend a couple minutes before we move on. Your views on a detailer also being a trainer. Go.
Yeah, I think it's a perfectly great thing to do if somebody's put their time in to learn how to be efficient and comes into a company like hyperCLEAN. We hire them, we show them how we want people trained, they become an employee. That's a great thing. I always love when people stay in this industry. We have a habit of losing people from this industry as soon as their business doesn't work. I don't begrudge anybody saying, hey, business ownership's not for me. I just want to train. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you didn't make it, don't talk about business. Just talk about how to detail a car, how to be efficient, how to use the products that you're demonstrating, how they're going to make your business better, how you can save this angle here, walking around the car this way, holding the polisher that way. I think that's very valuable. And if you've detailed cars for a long time, you are usually fairly efficient. And if they came into a place like hyperCLEAN, we'd make them even more efficient when they went out and trained. There's incredible value in that. You have a lot of older guys in our industry that say, hey, come to my training. You're never going to sit down and we're going to learn how to detail a car. Cool, man. Learning that skill is awesome. There's always value in that. And you're going to take the value that you're going to take out of that individually. When that person's been working for a brand for 35 years and has never built a business from zero, I don't want to hear his business thoughts. Period. End of story. By the way, we know these people, and I tell them don't talk business with me, and they're not even training me. I've made jokes with every one of those guys. Man, it must have been really cool when you detailed that car for money in 1986. I mean, I have a rep that I said that to every time he called me. You know, things have changed, my guy. We're not using cyclone polishers anymore. So why don't you keep yourself?
Love those, man.
Yeah, why don't you keep
yourself?
You know, why don't you keep that to yourself about the business and just talk to me about XYZ product? Yeah, there's an extreme value on skill acquisition. Other than that, right now in detailing, there's not much value in trying to learn the detailing business from these massive training protocols. I can't find it. And a detailer failing and they're closing their shop within 3.5 years opening up, I don't want to hear his business opinion, but he may have a really great way to give me a tip on how to do this or that a little bit better during the training. And I think that's valuable. And he can teach me about the product he represents and how it can make me more efficient. I think that stuff's awesome. We just need a lot more people to shut up about the business, because that's what's causing the cancerous problem we have and the large amount of failures and guys getting started on the wrong foot is they're being told the wrong business information.
And I think, I mean, Marty, well, you both said it, that, yeah, bringing a detailer into your company to represent you and show training that has experience, but you both are going to speak with this guy or woman or whatever the case may be, that here's what we want to do. Here's how we do things. Here's how we want things to be taught. Here's the processes. And I don't know if that's really much discussed with any most companies when they bring it. I don't know if the trainers train, if that makes sense. If they just call somebody, you know, if they're like, oh man, this guy's great at detailing cars. We're gonna have him out there, gonna do some trainings, and we're gonna cut them loose. And here's the coding. Or good luck with it. You know, go do your thing. I mean, there has to be some sort of hierarchy of information that this person's supposed to be giving, because obviously, if they're just there, if they're a good polisher or a good ceramic coat installer, whatever the case may be, I don't know where the professionalism of being a trainer comes into. I mean, I've never gone to.
But Brian, let me ask you this: you've dealt with so many of these guys. The people that they report to have never detailed.
Right.
They can't teach those guys.
Right.
So many guys that are being brought in to ceramic coating companies are being brought into ceramic coating companies that have 4 or 5 executives or owners at the top, and none of those people have ever detailed a car for money. I mean, that's almost across the board in the chemical world. You can't find anybody, I don't think, that we can find that knows how to detail a car for money. They're not out there, right? They're just not out there. So the trainers are coming in and setting up the protocol where if they came into a company like hyperCLEAN, you're exactly right. They'd be at HQ and we'd be saying, nope, we're not doing that. I don't know where you learned that. That's not right. Let me show you how to do this more efficiently. How many companies exist on the planet in the ceramic world where any of the owners, executives, whatever, can actually teach you how to detail a car efficiently? So they can't train their trainers. So now their training programs based on this guy used to detail cars, we're going to have him build the training program. Well, if he's already run a business that's failed, I mean, you don't know if he's efficient. You don't know if the way he does things is going to be a moneymaker for anybody. And so I think Brian brings up a pretty good point here, which is if you came into a company like hyperCLEAN, you'd have 2 guys with 40 plus years experience teaching you the ways that we want our people taught that come to our trainings. There's the value of 40 years in the business. Many of these companies, even if they've inherited them, those guys have never detailed a single car for $1. Who can they train?
But let's be fair. Let's say neither one of you have ever detailed a car. You both were bankers and you decided to start hyperCLEAN. And you guys were like, man, I just want to get in the chemical game. If someone I'm interested in, I like cleaning my car at home. I don't know anything about detailing cars. If you're going to bring a trainer in, I would think you guys would probably say, let's say you've been in business 5 years, chemicals. You're probably going to go to your highest grossing company that you guys deal with. You're going to visit them, see their processes, how they run things as a company. And if you're going to bring in a trainer that details really well, he doesn't even have to be using your product yet. Maybe he's coming in. I would think you'd be like, look, you're going to go spend time down at Jimmy Bob's detailing. This is our number one buyer. This guy runs a huge machine of a company. I want you to be there for 2 weeks. I want to make sure you're on the same page of how we want our products used and how we're going to go out and show this business. I mean, there's got to be some sort of, instead of just, well, this guy wants to be a trainer, let's whip him up and bring him in here and start rolling with it. Like I said, most guys don't know that own the companies. They're not detailers, which is fine. But there's got to be some responsibility of somebody that you're giving somebody value when you start doing these things. And I think that's where people get frustrated. But you can't get too frustrated that you got duped into going to a training that wasn't worth it when you didn't do much research or education on it. I mean, it's kind of still on you. It's just like we went down that Jamaica and it was a freaking pop-up tent and you dropped $2,000, but because you clicked on buy now on Facebook and you got down there and you got the worst vacation ever. Well, I mean, let's be honest. If you told me the story, I'd be like, well, yeah, I can't believe that happened, man.
All right, so there's a thought that's been running through my head as I've continued to experience the way trainings have evolved and will continue to evolve. And I find one, seems to be pretty common around trainers in the industry is they love to hop from brand to brand. Like that's detail trainers as well as, I'm a trainer, right? So even detailers that start training for a brand, then go over to another brand. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts, because I guess at this point, it really shouldn't matter because they're really just going to be educating people on how to use this other type of product, or this skill set is going to be just fine for also this company. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, we're real big here on you're going to get in business with somebody, you better know the company you're getting in business with. And the trainer's secondary to that. I've always want to be aligned. And for people that don't know, I was in business with ceramic coating companies long before I was an owner of hyperCLEAN. I just cared that I was in business with a coating that worked, products that worked, with a company that would stand behind their stuff. And that was really hard to find. Let's be honest. I mean, that was kind of one of my big fallouts with one of the big brands I worked with as they started having problems. So I don't think you should pick anything based on so-and-so works at this company. You should pick it because it works for your business and you find success with it. And I don't think the trainers hopping around, people move jobs all the time. It is what it is. I don't care one way or another, but I'm also a guy that never picked based on my rep. I picked based on, does that product, does that system fit with us being efficient and making money in my detailing business? And so that's a huge mindset for guys, because you'll watch guys bounce from ceramic coating company to ceramic coating company. It's almost always in the back of my head, that guy's not going to be in business long term, or he's not really making the money he's telling me he's making. Because once you have a system that you trust and that you verified, it becomes really tough on successful businesses to make wholesale changes for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I had no problem with people jumping from company to company to a certain extent. I mean, a chef is a chef. If he's going to go cook here, he can go cook here. He can get a job here. He's getting paid more. I can't knock anybody. If someone's offering you more money for your skill level, then you're going to go there. But you can't start telling me that, we're back to, don't tell me about your business, unless you sold your business or you had a really good track record. You can show me. But also don't tell me this is the best product in the world. Show me how to use the product. Show me how to make money using the product. But you can't tell me when you were 3 days ago with so-and-so brand, but now you're over here with this brand. Don't try to sell me that this is the best product. And man, you're going to see it's last for so long when you have no experience with the product in your shop or using it. Show me how to use the product. Show me how to make money with the product. But you can't just all of a sudden be like, this is the best thing in the world. You won't believe how amazing this product is. You're a trainer. Show how the product needs to be used and how I make money with it. But there's nothing wrong with people changing company to company to a certain extent. Once again, back doing your research. If this guy's left 5 different companies and burnt bridges with every company and went on rants about, this is the worst company in the world, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And, now he's with this company and then he's, oh, I can't believe these guys. You might want to, keep your distance a little bit because there's only so much wrong that can go. We're detailing cars here to cause you to have that kind of anger and issues with a company.
Well, Brian and I are real big on something else. If you watch an owner of a company getting crazy on social media and you do business with them and your business isn't successful, don't get mad at everyone else. You watch that guy act a fool on social media for 10 years, you aligned your business with that company. If you align your business with bad companies, you can't expect to have a great company. That's not what anybody successful does. So you need to align yourself with the company first. If they happen to have a rep or somebody you like, that's just a bonus. I align myself with the core of whatever company I do business with. I do a business with one PPF company, maybe two on some specific products. You know why? Both of those companies, I trust the company, not my rep. I'm not buying because of a rep. I'm buying because I know that company's not going to act crazy on social. That company knows what they're doing. They're not just owners and partnering up with everyone, which is another thing we've seen in this industry where everybody's just doing all these trainings together. It's completely ludicrous behavior and nobody wants to call it out. But as a detailer, I'd be looking at that stuff going, I'm not going to be a part of that. So look at who that company you're going to do business with surrounds themselves with, right? There's a ceramic coating company that we all thought when they were lighting cars on fire, they'd be the one to go. And now they're the one standing. And none of us on this call right now on this podcast can believe it. But guess what they did? Kept their head down, acted professional, treated their people well. They have a viable business. And you watched all these Johnny-come-latelys come around who we thought were going to be big companies. And guess what happened? They partnered with the wrong people. They didn't look at what they were doing publicly, and it hurt them. And so as a business owner, would I be looking for people that understood the business as owners? Yes, I would be, knowing what I know now. But I just want to be in business with good companies. So I wouldn't get all caught up in this trainer went to this company. And again, if that trainer started bad-mouthing people, whether it was on my phone or on social media, I would never be in business with that person again. That's how it goes.
All right. So years ago, I was on a podcast from a trainer, right? And they asked me a question that I found to be pretty interesting, right? Like this trainer wanted to know from me, all the years of business, 20 plus at that point, what's been the biggest lesson that I've learned? I thought, interesting question from somebody who was an entrepreneur type trainer guy, right? Like, good question. At the same time, was he digging for information, right? Like that was part of why I kind of was like, like one more thing that he can just regurgitate. But it's still a viable question that I'd like to close this episode on because we've talked about our views on training, our views on business. And I would like to know from you guys what has been, because for me, my answer then still remains today. The biggest lesson I've learned is it takes time. That's in minutes a day. Let's go minutes an hour. Let's go hours a day. But then how many years of your life it actually takes to not just, Brian, I love the 125 too. I love that. But not just make 125,000 to do that over a sustained period. Because if we all got into business for money, well, we didn't get into business just immediate money. We really would like the long tail term of getting that magic word residual, right? So what does residual? It doesn't happen, right? The biggest lesson I've learned is it takes time every minute of an hour, every hour of the day, and how many hours of days and days of the year you put in, you will reap what you sowed.
Yeah, I'll finish it with this. The biggest lesson that I've learned is you need to understand yourself. 8 out of 10 people shouldn't own a business. That's the stats. If it's not for you, man, it's not for you. Doesn't make somebody that owns a business better than somebody that doesn't own a business. You have to understand yourself. So let me give you an example. I know a lot of people young and old, that are great detailers. And they own a business and they struggle their whole life. We know guys that are begging for rent money at 45 years old and have all the talent in the world. The thing they would never do is just go work for somebody and make a great living, work at an elite body shop and become their finisher or whatever. You need to understand yourself. If business ownership is not for you, that's perfectly okay. Doesn't mean anything other than that's just not my path in this thing. The more honest you are with yourself about your strengths and your weaknesses, the quicker you're going to find where you fit in the world's economy. And you're going to be a lot happier, right? I have found out that business ownership fits with my personality. The 9 other friends I know that started businesses around the same time, those guys are all working for somebody now. Wasn't for them. I don't judge them. They don't judge me, whatever. Don't glorify what business ownership is. Just find what works best for you. And that's by knowing yourself. And there's a lot of guys and friends, family in this industry as well that have been lying to themselves my entire career, and they're worse off for it. There's no reason to struggle in today's economy when everybody's looking for a good person. You can make $100,000 a year salary easier today, and it'll be easier tomorrow, and it'll be easier 10 years from now. If it's not for you, man, be honest with yourself. If it is for you, you better accept what it's going to take. And let me tell you something, sacrificing family time, sacrificing time with friends, all that stuff comes with it. And if you don't want to sacrifice that stuff, don't own a business. That's all right. Go work a 9 to 5, making a great living. So I think being honest with yourself is what I've learned.
Yeah, I'm going to say you got to know your value. No, I'm just kidding.
Know your worth.
Know your worth.
Know your worth. Know your worth. I'm going to piggyback off what Nick said. I mean, it comes down to hard work and sacrifice. You've got to make that decision, and you've got to come to it very soon, within a couple of years, if you're willing to be a hard worker and sacrifice. And I'm not talking about grinding through the night and doing all this. I'm talking about real work, that you're willing to hustle when you're working your 8 hours, and that there's going to be days you're going to work more than 8 hours. There's going to be days you're going to work 70, or weeks where you work 70 hours. It's going to happen when you're building your business. You're going to sacrifice, like Nick said, family time. You're going to miss some of the crap. I'm not talking about missing a kid's birthday or something, but you're going to miss that cookout. You're going to miss hanging out with your buddies, and they're going to give you crap about it. But you got to make a decision if that's worth it, because you're not going to be able to do it if you're going to be like, well, look, man, I don't work past 4 o'clock, and I don't work Saturdays, and I don't work this, I don't work that. I'm not dealing with this customer because, that's me time. I'm not taking calls in the evening. I'm not looking at answering messages. There's a reason Facebook, when you get a message on Facebook in your business account, it says get back to them soon. That's all algorithm. They see all that. There's a reason they want people to be their message returned. Facebook wants to see that. Google wants to see you posting stuff. These companies have it figured out. They know how things work. So you have to be able to be committed to your business, but you got to be able to figure it out quick whether you are or not. That you can work hard. You can put the time in to build that company where you don't have to do all that stuff all the time. But you got to start, like we said at the beginning. You got to start at the beginning of the book. You got to put your dues in. Whether it's working for somebody, then moving on. I mean, I still recommend that. Going to work for a detail shop that is actually a good detail shop that you can do some research on. I've offered people to come work for me. Come work for me for a week. I'm not going to pay you, but you can work with us and learn what we do. It doesn't happen where people take me up on that. It's just amazing to me, because people are like, well, I'm not giving away my free work, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that. I mean, I did a lot of crap when I was younger. I mean, I did some of the worst detailing we didn't have cool chemicals I could spray here and spray there and let it set and do this and that. I mean, I remember scrubbing insane stuff and working on taking tar off the side of a car when I didn't have the proper solvents. And I mean, just ridiculous things back in the day. But I did it because I wanted to learn how to do it. And I knew I wanted to do this job. It was a crap job, but I knew one day I wasn't doing that job. And I don't now. We don't take in the interiors of minivans that look like the bomb blew off in them. I've got to that point. I'm here now. But I started down way at the bottom. And I was working for somebody else doing that. I was making, I think I was $6.50 an hour, $6 an hour maybe.
Yeah.
And coming home covered in crap. But you got to be able to be willing to do the hard work and have sacrifice. But you got to know what your hard work is adding up to. If you're working 70 hours a week and you're billing out at $10 an hour, $25 an hour, it's not worth it. it's just, but you got to be able to figure that out. And I think you need the right people in place to be able to talk to and stuff like that. Whether it's
we all got PTSD from that old acid. I know that for one. There's three of us on this call that have PTSD of that old wheel acid.
Yeah, listen, like one I joked around about, which I was reintroduced to the other day as finalizing the enzymes in our carpet system, was scrubbing that carpets and hitting underneath the seat. And right, that's what that like. I went right, like those scars on your hands and your knuckles is never fun.
Hey,
guys,
it's been real cushy at HQ. It's been real cushy. So that had to be a tough moment for you there, Marty.
It was, guys. Fun episode. A lot of good information, Brian. We really appreciate your time. A lot of valuable input, especially since you have been leading. You've been around for a long time, man. We really appreciate your time that you spent with us today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you for
having me. Talk to you guys next week.